My name is Benjamin Glover, and welcome back to Toga Talks. Today we'll be covering the Saratoga Springs Public Library vote, as well as continuing our coverage of the Saratoga Springs City School District school board election. Starting with the library vote, the Saratoga Springs Public Library holds elections for the budget and trustees. This year, on April 20th, 5 days from now, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., there will be an election for one trustee slot, as well as the budget for the fiscal year 2023-2024. So information about absentee ballot is available from the district clerk, who you can call from the library's website or show up to the library during operating hours. Now at 7 p.m. on the 17th, 2 days from now, there will be a public hearing on the proposed budget and an opportunity to meet the library trustee candidate in the H. Dutcher Community Room, which is the community room where you turn right into the library. Anybody who's in the Saratoga Springs City School District can vote for the library trustee because that's where the budget comes from. The budget this year will collect $5,283,757 from school district residents and property taxes. It's a 1.5% increase from last year, and it's the first increase since 2019. The trustee, Katie Capelli, whose 5-year term is expiring in June, is running unopposed for re-election, and she was first elected in 2018. Stop by. Voting is essential to our democracy's continued existence. Library elections are definitely have the least turnout, but I mean they matter. There's not any competitors here, so an important thing. It's more important that you go to the public hearing, I would say, because it's an opportunity to meet your elected official, talk about what the library does, how they're spending your money, that kind of thing. And continuing with our school board election coverage, Tony Crackler has announced that he's running for re-election with Anjanita Mecca and Beth Braxton also running with him. That's a joint ticket there. Tony Crackler said, "I'm very happy to report that I've decided to seek a second term on the school board, but even happier to tell you that my good friend Beth Braxton for school board has decided to throw her hat into the ring as well. This is great news for the Saratoga Springs City School District." Anjanita Mecca, who's the incumbent former president of the Saratoga Springs School Board, has said in her press release, "I am pleased to announce I am running for a third 3-year term on our community's Saratoga Springs City School District Board of Education, and very excited to be running with my two friends, Tony Crackler and Beth Braxton, who are exactly the type of people we need governing the district and who I would love to be rolling up my sleeves with at the table. May 16th vote, here we come." Beth Braxton is running for election, not an incumbent. Part of this ticket, the only non-incumbent on this ticket. She said, "I am excited to announce that I am running for school board with my friends Tony Crackler and Anjanita Mecca. Tony and Angie are model trustees, and I'm inspired by their commitment to our schools and community. I hope to serve alongside them with your support." Beth Braxton is the only candidate among these three who we have not covered. She's a mental health counselor and an associate professor at SUNY Adirondack. So an interesting aspect here is we have 2 incumbents running with a non-incumbent. There's 3 slots, and there's 1 challenger, who we'll get to in a second. The most interesting dynamic here by far is the Crackler is running with a Mecca and Braxton. So that joint ticket means that there will be, it's not uncommon in school board elections. It's just interesting to see how that'll play out with 1 challenger. The way that these school board elections work is when you go to vote on May 16th, you tick off, when you file your ballot, you tick 3 candidates that you'd like. So the challenger is going to have an easier chance getting elected by using the power of trying to get people to use their 3rd vote on them. So there's going to be a group of people who are going to vote for Tony and Anjanette and Beth because they're running on a joint ticket. They have joint mailers. They've endorsed each other. There's that group of people. There's a group of people who are going to vote for Tony and Anjanette because they see that they're incumbents, and who are going to vote for Sharon because they know Sharon, or Sharon got to them or knocked on their door. Sharon is the challenger, by the way. So I think that those are those are going to be the deciding votes. And of course, there's going to be people who are going to vote for the challenger and none of three of the candidates. Because you can vote for, you don't have to use all three votes. You just can use all three votes. So I think that early election prediction here, 2 out of 3 of the candidates on the joint ticket will be are most likely to be elected. Now, that's not saying that they can't all get elected, especially considering what we're going to get to here in just a second here. So they've been appearing in photos together. They declared support for each other, and they have this morning, Tony Crackler showed up to the Saratoga Springs Democratic Committee and solicited a donation of $1,000 with a presentation about the joint campaign. Solicited $1,000 for mailer. John Bugerman in the last election cycle, along with Natalia Latica and I believe Martha Devaney, solicited a similar donation from the Saratoga Springs Democratic Committee for $1,000 in mailers. So this isn't uncommon. It is interesting because it brings that partisan aspect into a school board election, which is a very contentious issue. But overall, I think it's indicative of the kind of campaign they're running. When you look at the issues, when you look at how they vote, especially regarding SROs and how they talk about issues like parents' rights, they're clearly coming at this from the left, from the Democratic point of view. So it makes sense that they are going to be cooperating with the local Democratic Party and soliciting support from them. So I think that'll be interesting. I think that it's an interesting aspect. They seem to be running a very similar campaign from what I can see from their Tony Crackler and Anjanette Mecca's past campaigns. Moving on to the challenger here, Sharon Dominguez is running for school board. In her press release, she stated, "I'm Sharon Dominguez, and I'm running for Saratoga Springs School Board because I believe our students deserve the best education possible. My top priorities are safer schools, preparing our students for life after graduation, and providing fair education for all. I hope you will join me on my mission to make Saratoga schools the best they can be." Something to note about Sharon's press release in comparison to Beth, Tony, and Anjanette's is that she, as a non-incumbent, not with a ticket, kind of an independent, I would almost call her an underdog in the situation, she very clearly outlined her priorities. I don't know, I believe that Tony himself has echoed some of the points that he wants to make at a larger scale, especially in front of the Democratic Committee, and what he wants to do at the school board. But it's not, the message doesn't shine through as much as Sharon's does, I think. And I think that's interesting because we're in a pretty early stage of the campaign. So, and Crackler, as the president of the Board of Education, as somebody who's won an election already, as somebody who's working with 2 other people who are running for, office, is certainly not going to be like a not skilled campaigner. I think that it's almost a wiser decision that I think he's holding back on his exact stances on issues. Now, safer schools and preparing our students for life after graduation are not in any way, shape, or form specific policy, but it's priorities, so it outlines what she will be campaigning on and what she's going to try to resonate with voters. So I'd like to share a comment that she put under a Facebook page here in response to one of people commenting about the issues that she cares about. Because I think it's an interesting, I almost call it case study into her campaign. So it says, "Gary, thank you for reaching out. I was thrilled that 5 of our members voted in favor of adding 2 additional SROs at the recommendation of the insurance auditor. We now have 4 SROs covering 8 campuses. Your question about fair education for all is a great question. I believe it's important for our schools to provide a learning environment where each student has the opportunity to learn without regard to skin color or other immutable characteristics." Okay, this is interesting. I'd love to highlight the SRO part. Now, the SRO has been a very dividing issue on the school board. Several groups have formed around it, parents groups. It's been an issue that's played out over a few years. I would say it's heightened in the last 5 or 6 months up to the SRO vote. And I think that this is almost a case study. I would pile on the fact that the local Republican committee has been liking a lot of Sharon's posts on her official campaign account to make the point that I think Sharon is going to run further from the right. I wouldn't call it the Republican because she has, to my knowledge, she has not done the same thing that Tony and the joint ticket has done. She has not solicited donations from the local Republican Party, to my knowledge. But I think that she is going to be as an opponent of the other three, coming from the right here. So I think that there's an interesting. I'm going to dive into that a little bit more in the analysis section, but and then on her campaign website, she is quoted as being a mom and dedicated volunteer, and I could not easily find out more information about kind of her professional background, but I'm sure I'll find more. We are going to have continued election coverage up to May 16th, which is Election Day. And actually after the election, on Election Day. Yeah. So Erica Borman. Erica Borman is the big wild card here. All indications show that she is not going to run in this election. Erica Borman is somebody who is a colleague of Crackler and Engineet. So would be, around them a lot. And Tony Crackler repeatedly stated at the Saratoga Springs Democratic Committee that he believes that the pool of candidates will shake out to be these four. So while she has not made an official announcement either way, Toga Talks has reached out to her several times. She has declined to comment. She has, but I think she could theoretically jump in. The way that the school board elections work are interesting because the petition deadline is pretty far. It's in late April, I believe. So considering mid-May is the actual election, there's pretty late petitioning. So she could theoretically still run. She hasn't made any announcements. She hasn't indicated that she is going to. She also hasn't indicated that she isn't, though. So it would add an interesting dynamic because it would mean that there's two challengers to this kind of joint ticket, but it would also mean that, it's also a wild card because if she doesn't, then it really does mean that it's Sharon versus Tony, Anjanette, and Beth Braxton. Okay, so the analysis section here. Diving more into that 3-person versus 1 challenger, I think that it's going to be an interesting campaign. I'd love to see how the parents groups reach out or talk about this election. They have been pretty active since the SRO vote, or they haven't been pretty active rather. But Scene is, if I had to guess, probably going to endorse the 3 group. I wouldn't be surprised if in some way, shape, or form the Republicans support Sharon, as well as parents' rights groups. But again, she has not outlined that as a clear point of her campaign. So I would like to show that the fact that these are not facts. This is speculation. This is an early point in campaigning. Most of the campaigning in school board elections happens 2 weeks before the actual election day. So we're not going to know a whole lot until then. But it's, some of this preliminary analysis here, the 3 big factors at this point is the fact that it's 3-person versus 1 challenger, Erica Borman, and the third big one is the right versus left. Because it really does look like it's coming down to 3 left-wing candidates against 1 right-wing candidate. But again, I really want to exemplify the fact that at this point, Sharon is not a right-wing candidate because it's too early into her campaign to classify her as a right-wing candidate, even though she has support from those on the right side of the political spectrum, does not mean that she herself is a right-wing candidate. So Toga Talks is going to reach out to Sharon, Tony Crackler, Beth Braxton, and Janita Mecca. And we're going to request that they come on. We're going to request more comment on their campaigns. So moving on. We will also be beginning our coverage of the city elections, the 2023 Saratoga Springs local elections. So in Saratoga Springs, we have off-year elections for all of our city positions as well as the supervisors that we send to the county. We send two supervisors to the county, and there's 5 offices on the city council: the mayor, public safety, public works, accounts, and finance, because of our weird commission form of government. So starting with the Democrats, the current mayor, Ron Kim, is running again. He is running as a Democrat. He's a lawyer, elected in 2021. He will be running in a primary against Chris Matteson, a retired dentist and three-time former public safety commissioner from 2012 to 2018. And the current public safety commissioner, James Montagnino, is running for public safety as the incumbent, with no challengers in the Democratic Party. He has a background in law as a court referee. In Public Works, Jason Golub, who was appointed in 2022, appointed in 2022 and ran in 2022 and beat Anthony Scirocco Jr., son of Skip Scirocco, the previous Public Works commissioner, who unfortunately passed away in office. Jason Golub is running unopposed, both in the Democratic primary and the general election. Accounts, Dylan Moran, who was elected in 2021, who is the current incumbent, is also running unopposed in the Democratic Party and on the general election. And Manita Songvi, who was elected in 2021 as well, is also running unopposed in the Democratic Party and on the general election. She's a writer and the first LGBTQ commissioner in Saratoga Springs. And then for supervisor, the Democrats have Gordon Boyd, who is a consultant for Energy Next, or was a consultant for Energy Next, who is currently endorsed by the Democratic Committee. And he ran for county supervisor in the 1970s, and he unsuccessfully ran in a Democratic primary for mayor against the former mayor, Valerie Keene. He was also a member of the Saratoga Springs Charter Review Commission. And he is running for county supervisor, representing Saratoga Springs. Another Democrat who is not endorsed by the committee, who is running for the supervisor position, is the former Commissioner of Finance, Michelle Madigan. She's not endorsed. She is running on I don't want to say joint ticket yet, but they announced together with Chris Matteson. Chris Matteson and Michelle Madigan are the 2 non-endorsed candidates running in the 2023 elections on the Democratic side. And then on the Republican side, for mayor, John Safford, who ran for mayor in 2015, is running at the elderly age of 78. I believe he's 78 from my calculations, but I that's not formal. He is a local business owner, and he's running for mayor against incumbent Ron Kim. For public safety, Timothy Cole, a former FBI agent, is running against James Montagnino on the Republican side. And for accounts, public works, and finance, there are no Republican candidates running against the incumbents. Which means that even if Timothy Cole and John Safford win their elections, the Democrats would retain a majority on the city council. As for supervisor, Matthew Veach, the 8-term incumbent, who is, from what I can see, widely popular elected official in Saratoga Springs, is running for a 9th term this year. He will be running against Michelle Madigan and Gordon Boyd on the Democratic side. All right, so this is pretty early in the city Democratic cycle, or the city election cycle, and we're just starting to see how the candidates are shaping up. People are running out petitions. People have started canvassing. Campaign websites are up. Campaign season has begun, but we're not nearing the election yet. We're not even nearing the primary. The primary is in June or July. So pretty far out here. There's about 4 elections-ish that we are going to be looking at here on Toga Talks. The first one is the mayoral primary. Ron Kim versus Chris Matteson is going to be very interesting. Chris Matteson was notably public safety commissioner during the Darrell Mount incident, And there's been a lot of commentary around that, around his handling about it, of the situation, and around his term in general as public safety commissioner. And, I think I'm interested to see if that'll be brought up. And then the mayoral general is another election we're going to be covering. This is going to come down to Safford on the Republican side in any situation. So we're looking at either Kim versus Safford or Matthiesen versus Safford. And I think that I would struggle to make guesses and I would struggle to speculate at this point just because we know so little about the Safford campaign. Everything we know about the Safford campaign and the Matthiesen campaign, for that matter, is from past campaigns. Mattiesen's being this public safety campaigns where he ran as a almost center-right figure, and Safford's campaign where he really ran on this center-right platform of he's a business owner, he's and this kind of air of reasonability around him because of the current mayor at the time. So I think it'll be interesting to see the difference between a Matthiesen and a Kim campaign. I think that a Kim campaign will be more amiable to the idea of taking more elements from the left than the Matthiesen campaign will be. But again, an important point here is that at the local level, the national air of politics exists, but is not as present. So when I talk about the right and the left, I'm really talking about local issues. I'm really talking about people who have national opinions on all these right to left issues and usually have lined up opinions about local issues. So, one of the big issues is, the shootings on Broadway and Caroline Street and the stabbing and the recent uptick in violence. And I think the solutions around that, and you see a lot of more people from the right talking about gun rights. And that's an interesting aspect because I think that Safford and Matthiesen are going to be more amiable to those ideas, more connected to them, I suppose, than Kim would be. But I don't know, because we aren't in campaign season yet, so I think we haven't seen how that'll pan out yet. For the public safety general, the only non-mayor and non-supervisor position that's being contested is public safety. Timothy Cole, to my knowledge, moved here a couple years ago. And considering how much opposition groups to the current incumbents have been hammering in the point that the city council, none of the city council members were born in Saratoga Springs, it's interesting seeing them nominate a candidate who so recently moved here. Montagnino, I must disclose that I'm currently interning at the office of Commissioner Montagnino, so our coverage of Montagnino will be lackluster in the interest of an unbiased election coverage. So I'm just going to cover facts. I'm not going to provide my opinions on either candidate. And for supervisor, Michelle Madigan and Gordon Boyd from the Democratic side. There is 2 slots, reminder. So incumbent Tara Gaston is not running again. She is a Democrat. And Matt Veach, who is the Republican, who is one of our 2 current supervisors, is running again, seeking his 9th term. I think preliminary prediction here is that what we're looking at when you go to the ballot box, you get 2 votes, much like the Board of Education, you get 2 votes. You could vote for, Veach and Boyd or Madigan and Veach or, Boyd or Madigan. It will be down to the outlying votes. The votes, because Veach is widely popular from what I can see on both the right and the left. And I think that he will, no matter how this election goes, I think Veach is going to pull out in front. I think this, but I also understand people who provide arguments against this. And the biggest argument against this is that Gaston, in the last election cycle, beat Veach in votes. And Gaston definitely created an upset there. So I think that what we're going to be looking at is how Boyd and Madigan, push forward. They're both in the same party, but only one of them is endorsed by the committee because of recent infighting inside of the committee. So I think that the supervisor election will be one of the most interesting elections to watch in this cycle. The general election is in November, and the primary is in late June, I'm pretty sure. So, we'll be covering up to there. We'll try to get candidates on as much as we can. We are going to be focusing on the Board of Education election because it is sooner. It's May. It's May 16th, guys. That is, as of tomorrow, exactly 1 month from now. So our 1 month of election coverage here. I'll give updates in following episodes. But thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. Check us out on SoundCloud and YouTube and Facebook and whatever. Feel free to message or email in any comments or suggestions you have. If you want to come talk, if you feel like you're a expert in any of this, then please reach out. Thanks for listening. See you next time.